What is cell binding? Cell binding is giving the date picker full access to the entire date range. It is by default set to false. When set to true, the date picker gets full control of the cell in the defined range, meaning you will no longer be able to manually edit the date. This is good for ensuring date-only values in the date range. As it stands, this date column is vulnerable to non-date values since the user can still decide not to click on the date launcher. So if the user decides to manually edit the date like this, then get distracted and leave the value like this, the entire analysis will be useless. Now these are the mistakes that makes us wonder why our figures are not balancing when we know that we captured everything. We often feel stupid when we have to answer why a certain transaction is missing in the report. Let's fix this through cell binding. To enable cell binding, go back to the VB editor. In the worksheet selection change event, put your cursor just after the find date range and then press the space key on your keyboard. This is the cell binding parameter we are looking for. As I said, it is optional and is set to false by default. To turn it on, you need to select or write true. So what happens if you turn it to true? When the date picker sees that the cell binding is allowed, when you select any cell within the named date range, it will convert all the cells within that range into meaningless or useless hyperlinks. It does this without distorting any existing format, alignment, or background. Everything will still look the same, except that when you point to that cell, you get a hand instead of a pointer. You also get this hover message that will let you know whether you are selecting a date or time. As you can see, all the cells within this range have been amplified and have the capacity to launch a macro. Now, if I click on any of these cells, the follow hyperlink event we created earlier will be activated, launching our date picker. Let me click on the time range. As you can see, these cells also got modified and you can now tell that this is a time range. Now, because this was done on the workbook level, if I go to any worksheet with a defined date range, those cells will be modified as well. One important thing to note is that the modification happens once, not every time you select the cells. This is done to keep the code light and as efficient as possible. Excel users have different choices and preferences. If you change your mind and prefer to select the cell first and then click on the date launcher, you can still easily roll back. To unbind, you need to go back to the selection change event and remove true. Only that and nothing more. If you go back to the worksheet and click on any modified range, the date picker will let go without any distortions.